Hello guys, welcome back to Target Psychology. We are finally back with our next video, and this video is basically going to be about the NET paper, the 2020 NET paper, September 2020 NET paper. So in this particular video, we are going to discuss our paper 1 and we are going to discuss it in detail, but there are certain topics which I have covered in detail in the previous lecture videos of mine. So those things I will not be discussing in detail, but wherever it is necessary, I will give you detailed solution for that. So without wasting any further time, let's begin. So as we know that the September NET, which was supposed to happen in June, so it was the June 2020 cycle which was conducted in September. So here I am discussing the 24th September paper, which was for the subject of psychology morning shift. So this is the overall breakdown of number of questions we received from each unit. Now surprisingly, this time there were a lot of questions asked from unit 9, from which definitely there are questions, we definitely get questions from unit 9, but the number is not that much. And this time it was surprisingly, it was like the maximum number of questions were asked from unit 9, which is environment, development and people. So yeah, it was like that. Now apart from that, the second unit which was important from the perspective of number of questions asked is research methodology, unit 2, and then comes unit 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the minimum number of questions were asked from unit 10, which is higher education. Now one by one we will be discussing each question and I'll be telling you like from which unit this particular question has been asked from. Now so let's begin. So now we are going to start with our question 1. So the question 1 of NET 2020 paper 1 was about errors, was about research errors. So the question was framed like this, that there is some teacher who conducted a research and the researcher finds evidences to reject the null hypothesis. In doing so, he did some sort of error. So what type of error it is? So now first thing we need to be clear about is that there is no mention of the fact that whether he truly rejects the null hypothesis or he falsely rejects the null hypothesis. So if we take out that thing from our mind, so we have to look for the closest answer in this question. तो question क्या है? Basically किसी researcher ने कोई research की and उसने जब अपना hypothesis testing की, so he got some sort of error. And जब error आई है उसके research में, so research में error आई है after the fact that he has rejected the null hypothesis. अब इसमें कहीं ये नहीं दिया हुआ कि उसने सच में वो null hypothesis reject ही होना था तब उसने reject किया है, या वो accept होना था तब उसने reject किया है. So if ये सिनेरियो उसने दिया होता इस क्वेश्चन के अंदर, देन ये क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करना बहुत इजी हो जाता, बट यहाँ पे हमें क्लोजेस्ट आंसर देखना है. सो इस क्वेश्चन को सॉल्व करने के लिए आपको एक टेबल है जो आपको हमेशा याद रखनी चाहिए. इस टेबल को आप या तो एच नोट यानी कि नल हाइपोथेसिस की फॉर्म में याद रख लो, या फिर अल्टरनेट हाइपोथेसिस की फॉर्म में याद रख लो. इट्स अप टू यू. For me, the null hypothesis one is easy, so I have remembered it this way. Rest, it's totally up to you. Here we will have accepted. Here we will have rejected. Now there are 4 conditions arising. First condition is that the H note, which is the null hypothesis, it is true and it has been accepted. So in that scenario, there will be no error. There are no chances of error if the null hypothesis was supposedly true and it has been accepted, so no chance of error. Now second scenario is H note, which is our null hypothesis, is actually false. It's not true. It has to be rejected, but the researcher accepted. There are evidence that it should be accepted, but actually it was false. So in this situation, the researcher will be making a type 2 error, or what we call beta error. Right? Now the third is when null hypothesis is true but it has been rejected. So in this situation, the researcher will make a type 1 error, or say alpha error. And the fourth is when H naught is false and is rejected, so obviously no error. So we have two conditions right here. Now if we read the question again, then it is mentioned in the question paper that the researcher is rejecting the null hypothesis. So we have two conditions that we have to look at right now. One is this, when H naught is true and it has been rejected, so there is an error, and when H naught is false and it has been rejected, no error. But it is clearly saying that what type of error it is making. So our answer will be type 1 or say alpha error. Now this is the most closest answer because it is not mentioned in the question paper that whether the null hypothesis has to be accepted or has to be rejected, or whether the null hypothesis was actually true or was false. So if that particular line was given that it was actually true and it has been rejected, then the question would have been very easy and it would have been very easy to solve. This particular question is from your unit 2, which is research methodology. Now our second question was again from unit 2, which is research methodology. It was about substantiative research hypothesis. Now substantiative research hypothesis is basically a normal sort of research hypothesis only. There is just one difference, that it has not yet been operationalized. Now what is operationalization? Operationalization is basically when you turn an abstract concept into a well-known one, into a systematic one. So it is abstract, it's just in the mind of the researcher that okay, I might try to do something about it. I am thinking this can be my hypothesis, but I am not sure if this is my hypothesis. So there were 5 statements given and you had to choose that which one is correct about the substantiative research hypothesis. So I'm just going to read each statement one by one and just going to say it. Now remember, for this type of research hypothesis, the conditions are same what you go for a normal research hypothesis. So the first one is that a substantiative research hypothesis has to clearly specify the relationship among variables. Obviously it is a hypothesis, so it has to specify a relationship among the variables. If it doesn't do so, then it doesn't qualify as a hypothesis only. So the first statement is correct. Second is research hypothesis may be directed at finding out differential effect or relationships. Again, that's what hypothesis is all about. Either the hypothesis will be about A causing B, or it will be about A and B have some sort of positive or negative relationship. So the second one is also correct. Now third is null hypothesis should be formulated beforehand. Now this is not an essential condition. It is a condition definitely, but it is not an essential condition. See, null hypothesis we formulate only to reject or accept it so that our research can be proven, right? So we can even make it after we have formulated our hypothesis. So the first thing which is not applicable on substantiative hypothesis will be this. C, which is null hypothesis, should be formulated beforehand. Now the next one is there is direct support available for testing the research hypothesis. Again, it is a hypothesis, it has to be formulated, then the research is to be conducted, statistical analysis is to be conducted, and only after that we can either support it or we can reject it. So there is no direct support available for it. You have to do research, you have to collect data, you have to run the statistical analysis, you have to run SPSS, and only then you will be able to solve it. You will be able to prove or disprove it. So the second thing which do not apply on this question is there is a direct support available. So we have two things which do not apply. Now let's see the final one. The final decision on research hypothesis may be reached indirectly by deciding the fate of null hypothesis. Same for all the hypotheses. You can decide whether you can prove whether your alternate hypothesis is true or not by deciding the fate of your null hypothesis. If your null hypothesis is rejected, this means your alternate hypothesis is accepted. So this is the first thing you learn when you are starting to read about hypothesis in research, right? So the correct option here will be your option 4, which is like only 3 conditions are supporting substantiative research hypothesis, which is A, B and E. What are A, B and E? A is that it should clearly specify relationship between the variables. B is that it may be directed at finding out a relationship. And the last one, that the final decision can be reached indirectly also by deciding the fate of our null hypothesis. So this is about question 2, which was again from unit 2, and it was of easy difficulty level. It was not that difficult, both the questions. So let's move on to the third question. So the third question here is a match the following type of question, in which you are given 4 type of sampling methods. The first is simple random sampling, systematic sampling, dimensional sampling, and snowball sampling. So in this is a very basic thing. When you are reading sampling, when you are reading types of sampling, you get these types and you know what these are, right? So simple random sampling is very simple. You have a bowl of chits and you just randomly pick the numbers. So that's what your simple random sampling is. Second is systematic sampling. In systematic sampling, you choose every 5th or every 6th or every 7th of the individual or the subject. That's your systematic sampling. Third is your dimensional sampling. Now dimensional sampling is that units are identified on the basis of their characteristics. Maybe I only want women for my research, so I will only pick women. Maybe I want only men for my research, so I will pick men. So that's what dimensional sampling is. Like, you have specific dimensions for your subject group, and that's what you want to include in your research. Last is snowball sampling. Snowball sampling is used basically to identify the hidden population. Now what is the hidden population? Hidden population, I'm going to give you a very common example, drug addicts. So if you are doing a research on drug addicts, so you will identify one drug addict, you will make him fill your form with consent, of course, and then you will give 5 forms to him, and you will tell him that please give me forms from 5 filled forms from 5 people, and then so on. So it is basically like that. You identify n, you make him fill the form, n will identify 2n. These 2n will again identify further. There is this one Salman Khan movie I remember, in which he says कि तुम एक का भला करो और उस जिसका आपने भला किया उससे थैंक यू या कुछ भी रिटर्न में मत लो, बस उसको ये बोलो कि वो आपके एक भलाई के बदले किन्हीं 2 का भला करे. सो दैट्स व्हाट स्नोबॉल सैम्पलिंग इज. एक का भला किया, उसको बोला आप किसी 2 को पकड़ो उनका भला करो, उन 2 को बोला आप किन्हीं और 2 को पकड़ो उनका भला करो. तो कितने हो गए? 1 से स्टार्ट हुआ, 1 2 4 8 and furthermore. So that's what snowball sampling is. Again, very easy question, not that difficult. Now let's move on to our 4th question. Now our question 4th is from teaching. It's from teaching aptitude, and the question is basically asking you to differentiate between teaching and training. You have 4 options right here. One is discipline drill. Second is critical thinking. Third is steady association and mastery of facts. Now training and teaching are 2 different things, right? Although it's like a part of a similar domain, but they differ. Okay, training is when I am making somebody acquire one skill proficiently. Like if I am teaching you techniques of CBT, let's say cognitive behavioral therapy, I am training you on CBT. But if I am teaching you disorders, then I am teaching you disorders. I am not training you. I am not making you a master of things, right? So how teaching and training differs, that's one point we have to find out. Now discipline drill. Both teaching and training require discipline. Without discipline, neither of the things can be possible. Then let's come to steady association. Obviously, with time you learn. You do not learn in a day. Rome was not built in a day. Similarly, you will not learn anything in a single day. It is a steady task. Slowly, chapter by chapter, you will become a master of a subject. Similarly, in training, if you are learning badminton, you will not become Saina Nehwal today only. You will have to wait. One day you will learn how to hold a racket. Second day you will learn how to do servicing. So, steady association. Then mastery of skills. Obviously, teaching is enabling you to clear one level. Training is enabling you to learn one skill. Now let's come to critical thinking. I always say that whenever you are solving the MCQs, do not look out for a right answer. Always look out for wrong answers first. So wrong answers, eliminate those, move on to the next, find the right one. Now critical thinking. Do training require critical thinking? It doesn't, because when you are learning to play badminton, you will actually not require to incorporate something from your side. You do not need to have, okay, that's the right way to do servicing, but I do not like it, so maybe I can change it. You cannot change it. So while training, you cannot actually do critical thinking. You will not be juggling over a thing and then trying to find a solution. No, it's a simple thing. You have to learn painting, you will have paint brushes and you will do it. You have to learn badminton, you have racket and shuttle and you will learn it. So the right option here will be critical thinking. Only teaching enables critical thinking, because when you are learning something, you will have to find solutions for the problems as well, and you will have to do a lot of. Is from unit 6, which is logical reasoning, and it's the question number 17. Now in order to solve this question, you need to have your logical reasoning, the Indian logical reasoning notes by your side, and you can just read them once more. So the question is, to infer rain in the past by perceiving muddy water in the pond is which of the following? So what is saying कि हमें ये बताने के लिए कि कल बारिश हुई है, कभी पास्ट में बारिश हुई है, ये देख के कि तालाब का पानी जो है वो मडी है, मैला है, तो ये क्या है? विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग inferences it is out of the following from Indian psychology? We have 4 options: पूर्ववत अनुमाना, शेषवत अनुमाना, both पूर्ववत and शेषवत, and comparison. So let's start by eliminating again. Now comparison is when you are comparing two things. So if it was like that, rain, if we were comparing rain and muddy water, it would have been comparison, but we are not comparing here, we are inferring here. We are trying to predict that it was raining because the pond water is muddy. So obviously the 4th option is incorrect. Now third is both Purvavat and Sheshvat Anumana, so it will only be checked after we check the Sheshvat Anumana. So now Sheshvat Anumana is basically to infer an unperceived cause from a perceived effect. Unperceived cause from perceived effect will be unperceived cause. So unperceived cause will be something you cannot actually see. So if I had to say that it was raining yesterday because the wind is cold today, can I see wind? I cannot see wind. I cannot actually see it in front of me. It's something unperceived. I cannot perceive it. So then it would have been Sheshvat Anumana. So if Sheshvat Anumana it is not, so obviously the third option is also incorrect. So एक ही बचता है पूर्ववृत्त. Now पूर्ववृत्त क्या होता है? पूर्ववृत्त is when we are inferring an unperceived cause from a perceived effect. So perceived effect here is the muddy water and unperceived cause is rain. So the correct option is Purvavat. It would have been Sheshavat if the question was like that the wind is very cold today. It would have if the question was to infer rain in the past by feeling the cold wind today, then it would have been Sheshavat, but it is not like that. It is something, the effect we have here, we can see it in front of us because the water is muddy, so we can say that it would have rained yesterday. So the correct option is Purvavat. Now the next question, question 18 from the chapter from unit 4, communication. Efficacy of written communication depends on. So written communication is, if in this particular video I was not speaking anything but just simply writing on the blackboard, that would have been written communication. So we have been given 5 qualities, 5 characteristics, out of which we have to choose those characteristics which are correct for the efficacy of written communication. Let's start. First is lengthy presentation. Do you really think that if you write a 20-page letter to somebody in order to communicate someone, they will actually read it with interest? No, that will not happen. They will read those lengthy stuffs only if they have to give an exam. So written communication will not be efficient if you write a lot of things, like if it's a lengthy presentation. So the first one is incorrect. Second is complex sentence structure. So I don't actually remember any of the chemistry definition right now, but for example, if I had to tell you that I'm drinking water, simple thing is I'm drinking water, I will write I am drinking water, you will understand. But if I will write that I am trying to consume a chemical substance which is H2O made from binding hydrogen and oxygen molecules together, will you actually understand it? It will take a while to understand. So definitely complex sentence structure is not the right way. Then editing after writing. Yes, it improves the efficiency, because if you have written something and you check it and you find some mistakes and you rectify the mistakes. Then brevity in the sentence, clarity in the sentence. What you are writing, you understand that and the other person will also understand that. Use of strong words. No, you should never use strong words. You should never use the words that the other person will not understand. Then effective use of words, definitely. So again, example. See, when we are talking about American English and British English, so there are differences. They will be using certain types in British English and certain things in American English. So if you mismatch it, if you use the American one in British and British one in American, it will be all messed up and the communication will not be effective. So the correct options are the correct options are that efficacy of written communication depends on 1. Editing after writing, brevity in sentence, and effective use of words. Now next question 19 is again a maths question, and I think I'll just end the video right here because it's already. Now let us move on to our next question, which is question number 5. So this question was again a match the following type. It was basically on reliabilities. There were 4 types of reliabilities given and you just simply had to pick the right option, right? So the first one was test retest reliability, test retest method. Now you can understand what this thing is just by the name, test retest. You do a test and then after certain time you again do the test, so it's a test retest. So the definition will be administering the same test to the same group of individual at 2 different times, maybe after 3 months, after 6 months, after 7 months. Then alternate form methods, alternate a different thing. So alternate form, there are 2 type of forms for one test. So you on one group you will give one form and on the second group you will give the second form. Third is split half. You have an entire test, you split it in 2 parts and you give one part to one group and the second part to another group. Third is inter-rater. So inter-rater will be like, suppose I am one of the raters, I am one of the test conductors and you are the second one. So your scores and my scores will be compared and the reliability will be chosen. So that's what it is. From research methodology, again a very simple question, very easy question, so not that difficult again. Now again next question, question number 6, again from research methodology you had to choose which of the given researches are cyclic in nature. So I'm just going to simply write down the names of research. So first is case study, survey, experimental and action research. Now we will go by elimination method. First we will eliminate the incorrect options and then we will move towards the correct one. So what are cyclic researches? Cyclic researches are those which can be repeated again and again and can be improved over time. So first let's see case study. What is a case study? See, in psychology terms, case study is basically you pick one individual and you study entirely about it, or you pick one region and you study entirely about that. So that kind of study can happen only once. You cannot keep on repeating it, right? It's just one time. Next time you will take responses, the responses will be different. So the first option is incorrect. Second is survey. Population survey, gender survey, education survey, literacy survey, all sort of surveys. When second time you will do the survey, the statistics will change again. It will not remain same. So again, not the right option. Experimental research, in which you manipulate the one of the variables and see changes in the second variable, which is a dependent variable. Now definitely it can be repeated again and again and again, but it's not cyclic in nature, because second time you will be doing it, it will be a separate set of experiment altogether. Let's take an example. You have water, you freeze it, it's ice, so the state has changed. Now if you will do the experiment again to convert ice into water, the form will again change to water, so it will not remain same. So definitely not. Now what are action research? Action as a word means active, something which keeps on happening. Example, air. Air keeps on flowing. You take up O2, you take up oxygen, you leave out carbon dioxide. Again plants take that carbon dioxide, convert it to oxygen, give it to you, you take it. The same cycle keeps on happening, keeps on happening. If it stops, you die. So action research, something which keeps on repeating itself. So in action research, we will have a problem, we will find a solution, we are not satisfied with the solution, we will again do the research, we will again find a solution, not satisfied, again. So it will keep on happening. So this is the correct option. It is cyclic in nature. Now the next question was a assertion and reason. Now this was again from research methodology. It was based on paradigms. It states that the assertion is empirico-inductive paradigm in research focuses on meaning-giving subjective perspective to depict reality. Now the thing is empirico-inductive, induction, reaching at something, inducing something. So it is one paradigm in which the researcher will find empirical data. What is empirical data? The data you collect scientifically, the data which is supposed to prove something. Collects the empirical data and specify cases to generalize it in research findings. So what here the researcher do is, researcher will collect certain data from specific cases and will generalize it to the entire population. Let's take an example. So if I say that XYZ is a village and the men of that village have cigarettes, smoke cigarette, and if Y is from that village, this means Y also smoke cigarette. Or maybe in order to establish the fact that XYZ village people smoke cigarette, I may collect data from Y and imply that. So that's what empirico-induction is. That's what empirico-inductive paradigm is. So it is basically to define a subjective form of reality. Now what is subjective reality? Subjective reality is that reality which differs. My reality will be different from your reality about a concept. My thought about the concept of patriarchy will be different from your concept of patriarchy. So that's what subjective reality is. This particular paradigm, empirico-inductive paradigm, is used to depict reality as to depict subjective reality, right? Now the reason given here is, purpose of research in this paradigm is not to arrive at generalization but to discover reality as lived. Now again I am saying subjective reality. What is a subjective reality? The reality I have lived. If I have lived in a area which is supported by patriarchy, which is ruled by patriarchy, I will be against patriarchy. I will retaliate, right? So that's my reality because I have lived it. Your reality, you are saying that patriarchy do not exist, is because you have never faced patriarchy, right? So that's your reality, that's my reality. So here the reason is also correct. So we have established that both the things are correct. Now we have to find out whether this reason is explaining the assertion. So what was assertion? That empirico-inductive paradigm is basically understanding reality as lived. So correct. Reason is saying that the purpose is not to actually arrive at generalization. It is not to generalize that what I think you should also think, but it is to prove reality as lived. So here the reason is supporting the fact that reality is not something which can be generalized. It is something which differs from person to person. I hope you are able to understand. I have written it quite clearly, so if you will read it, you will understand it in a better way. But I hope I am able to convey what I am trying to say. So that was question 7. Now this was a bit difficult. It was like moderate difficulty. If you put little bit of mind in it, you might solve it. Although I was not able to solve it in the paper itself. But yeah, so this is it. Now let's move on to the next question, which is, in the spectrum of teaching methods given below, which of the following are dialogic? So in order to solve the question, first we need to understand what is dialogic. So dialogic is when two dialogues are exchanged. I am speaking, you are replying back to me. So here the video you are watching is not dialogic in nature, it's monologic, because I am the only one speaking. So let's see. First is laboratory work. So laboratory work is not dialogic because the experimenter is doing and the students are just watching him. Second is demonstration. Again, if I am demonstrating something to you, for example, if I am demonstrating how to open this pen, so I will simply pick it, I will just simply do it, and you will not be able to ask any sort of questions about it. Third one is tutorials. Obviously tutorials are the lectures you take in the class. When the teacher is explaining something, you do not understand anything, you raise your question and you ask your question. So that's dialogic because you are also involved in the conversation and the teacher is also involved in that. Third is group discussions. Group discussions again are dialogic because there is a group sitting over there, they have a topic to discuss and everybody is speaking about it. Then project work again is not dialogic, it's simply you have been given a project, you have to find the material and you have to do it. So this was the question. Now it was again easy because simply you just have to see, whenever you are solving the question, just put yourself in the place. See, this question was about the conversation between a teacher and student. If you put yourself there, you will know that when you are demonstrating something, you are not talking to the students. When you are doing a project work or when you are checking a project work or you are doing a project work as a student, you are not talking to anybody else. So that way try solving the questions. Now let's move on to the 9th one. So the 9th question is, identify from the following those features of key behavior which are contributed to the effectiveness of teaching. Now effectiveness of teaching is that what I am teaching, the students are grabbing that. That's what effectiveness of teaching is all about. So the first is lesson clarity, which implies making ideas clear to the learner. Definitely a boost for effectiveness of teaching, that when there is a clarity about lecture, what is being taught, why is it being taught, what all we will study about it, so it definitely improves that. Second is questioning, implying facts and concept based questions. Concept based questions and implying facts and concept based question. For example, It's all about, suppose I am a teacher and I'm teaching you, and I straightforward start asking you question. What is air, what is water, and you are a nursery student, so obviously you do not know those answers. So you should never start teaching that way if you have to make it effective. Third is probing involving eliciting and soliciting moves. Probing definitely enhance teaching, but it is not the short thing to assure that the teaching will be effective. Probing is basically pushing people to learn themselves about something. So that thing is good, but only after you have taught them a certain set of lectures. Then next is teacher task orientation with a focus of outcome at the unit clearly defined. So the task that teacher should select to give in the class should have a clear focus of the fact that, yeah, I'm giving this task because I want my students to understand this unit very clearly. For example, I have taught you teaching aptitude and I'm giving you questions for research methodology. So definitely it will not enhance teaching. It will just make you feel insecure about yourself, that अरे मुझे तो ये आता ही नहीं है, right? So that way it should not be like that. Now next is engagement in the learning process, which implies the amount of time students devote to learning. So as a teacher, you should assure that you should be aware about how much time your students are spending in learning and how much time they are spending sitting in learning. So if in a classroom, suppose we have a 1 hour class, so for 35 minutes I am teaching, and the last 25 minutes or so will be simply to discuss things, will be simply to discuss what I have taught in the class today. So this was question 9. Again, not that difficult also and not that easy also. Now next will be question 10, which is which of the following factors contribute to school learning are termed as social competence. So what is social competence? Social competence is basically the ability of the child to adjust in the society, to be able to talk to people in the society, to be able to answer their questions. So that's what social competence is about. Now there are 5 factors listed over here. One is motivation, intelligence, social skills, family support, and specific abilities of the learner. Now let's start by eliminating. First is motivation. 2 types, internal and external. Internal, when I myself want to learn something. External, when I am learning because I have to show it to people or because my family is pushing me. So external motivation is one factor in social competence. So this is a correct one. Second is intelligence. Intelligence is again individual specific. It is not affected by the society. It is not affected by what others are saying to you. So this is a wrong option. Then social skills. Obviously it's social competence, how well you are able to interact with others in the society. So definitely social skills will play a role here. So that comes under social competence. Then family support. Definitely if my family is supportive of me going out and studying, it will boost my confidence, it will enhance my learning. Then last, specific abilities of the learner. Again, individual thing, varies from one person to other person and not actually something which comes under social competence. So not the right one. So the correct options here will be motivation, social skills, and family support. Now I should have said it before starting the lecture, but I am saying it now. So if you have a printout of 2020 paper, it's good. You will be able to understand the entire lecture in a better way. So let's move on to next one. Now next are 5 questions from comprehension. So comprehension this time was based on sustainable marketing, and it was a very easy comprehension. There is nothing else to explain, because see, comprehension is one thing which you cannot learn. That's what I feel. It is something you cannot learn because every time it changes and you have to sit there and analyze the paragraph and find out the answer. Yeah, definitely you can do a few things to improve that, which is like maybe you can read 10 English words every day so that you don't juggle there. So that's what it is. So till question number 15 it was from comprehension. Now I think we will be able to do 1 or 2 questions more, and then the rest I will take in the next lecture, in the next video. So now let's take question from unit 6, which is logical reasoning, and it's the question number 17. Now in order to solve this question, you need to have your logical reasoning, the Indian logical reasoning notes by your side, and you can just they read them once more. So the question is, to infer rain in the past by perceiving muddy water in the pond is which of the following? So what is saying कि हमें ये बताने के लिए कि कल बारिश हुई है, कभी पास्ट में बारिश हुई है, ये देख के कि तालाब का पानी जो है वो मडी है, मैला है, तो ये क्या है? Which of the following inferences it is out of the following from Indian psychology? We have 4 options: पूर्ववत अनुमाना, शेषवत अनुमाना, both पूर्ववत and शेषवत, and comparison. So let's start by eliminating again. Now comparison is when you are comparing 2 things. So if it was like that, rain, if we were comparing rain and muddy water, it would have been comparison, but we are not comparing here, we are inferring here. We are trying to predict that it was raining because the pond water is muddy. So obviously the 4th option is incorrect. Now 3rd is both Purvavat and Sheshvat Anumana, so it will only be checked after we check the Sheshvat Anumana. So now Sheshvat Anumana is basically to infer an unperceived cause from a perceived effect. Unperceived cause from perceived effect will be unperceived cause. So unperceived cause will be something you cannot actually see. So if I had to say that it was raining yesterday because the wind is cold today, can I see wind? I cannot see wind. I cannot actually see it in front of me. It's something unperceived. I cannot perceive it. So then it would have been Sheshvat Anumana. So if Sheshvat Anumana it is not, so obviously the 3rd option is also incorrect. So एक ही बचता है पूर्ववृत्त. Now पूर्ववृत्त क्या होता है? पूर्ववृत्त is when we are inferring an unperceived cause from a perceived effect. So perceived effect here is the muddy water and unperceived cause is rain. So the correct option is Purvavat. It would have been Sheshavat if the question was like that the wind is very cold today. It would have if the question was to infer rain in the past by feeling the cold wind today, then it would have been Sheshavat, but it is not like that. It is something, the effect we have here, we can see it in front of us because the water is muddy, so we can say that it would have rained yesterday. So the correct option is Purvavat. Now the next question, question 18 from the chapter from unit 4, communication. Efficacy of written communication depends on. So written communication is, if in this particular video I was not speaking anything but just simply writing on the blackboard, that would have been written communication. So we have been given 5 qualities, 5 characteristics, out of which we have to choose those characteristics which are correct for the efficacy of written communication. Let's start. First is lengthy presentation. Do you really think that if you write a 20-page letter to somebody in order to communicate someone, they will actually read it with interest? No, that will not happen. They will read those lengthy stuffs only if they have to give an exam. So written communication will not be efficient if you write a lot of things, like if it's a lengthy presentation. So the first one is incorrect. Second is complex sentence structure. So I don't actually remember any of the chemistry definition right now, but for example, if I had to tell you that I am drinking water, simple thing is I am drinking water, I will write I am drinking water, you will understand. But if I will write that I am trying to consume a chemical substance which is H2O, made from binding hydrogen and oxygen molecules together. Will you actually understand it? It will take a while to understand. So definitely complex sentence structure is not the right way. Then editing after writing. Yes, it improves the efficiency, because if you have written something and you check it and you find some mistakes and you rectify the mistakes. Then brevity in the sentence, clarity in the sentence. What you are writing, you understand that and the other person will also understand that. Use of strong words. No, you should never use strong words. You should never use the words that the other person will not understand. Then effective use of words, definitely. So again, example. See, when we are talking about American English and British English, so there are differences. They will be using certain types in British English and certain things in American English. So if you mismatch it, if you use the American one in British and British one in American, it will be all messed up and the communication will not be effective. So the correct options are lengthy present. The correct options are that efficacy of written communication depends on 1. Editing after writing, brevity in sentence, and effective use of words. Now next question 19 is again a maths question, and I think I'll just end the video right here because it's already very lengthy. So from 19 and onwards, how many I will be able to cover, I again don't know. So those you will find in the next video lecture. So for today, this is all, and thank you for watching. Thank you for listening patiently, and please like, share, subscribe my channel. I'm not even 1,000 subscribers now, so please at least make it 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much.